Okay, people. So I have the pleasure of being joined by Kym Staton. Staton? Is that how you
Staten.
Staton? And Kym is the writer and director of Trustful, Julian Assange. Kym, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that.
My
Um,
pleasure, Kevin.
this is a fascinating documentary. It is. I think most people probably have heard of Julian, have heard of WikiLeaks, but there's been so much stuff out there that then you find out isn't true. So, what was this journey like for you to sift through everything to get to the truth of what's been going on?
Yeah, an incredible journey of understanding and of muckraking, basically, to sift through all of this, all the lies, and sort of push through all of that, those barriers to finally understanding this, the real truth about what this is all about. It's been many years for me, right back to 2010 when I saw the collateral murder video on the news that night, and 14 years journey of understanding for me to wrap my head around it. But when a couple of years before I started uh, producing the film, I read I read books and articles, and I watched other people's documentaries on the topic. And yeah, just started to make sense of it. And the further along I got, the more sort of obscene I realized that the whole situation was, with all the smear, the lies, the defamation, and all of this this sort of projection that his opponents are doing, where they're the ones that are putting lives at risk, or in the case of the Iraq and Afghan wars, and many wars, taking away the lives of civilians. That they love to project what they're doing onto Assange, and basically painting him as something that he's not.
Yeah, I mean, with what the like casualties, they're always a factor of it, right? But when it's covered up and acted like there's nothing happening, that's the crazy thing. It's like I'd never seen the collateral murder video. Um, but I think watching the video, I can understand from the soldier's point of view, right? When you think about what they go through on a daily basis, the threats. So I get that. It's the cover up, it's the lies after that, which are insane, right? That make no sense. So I think it's important for people like Julian to bring light to all of this, to let people know what is actually happening. The realities of war, the realities of the things the government aren't telling us. I think that's the big thing about what he's done with WikiLeaks. You know, like for you, getting to that, right? Getting all of the people that you have was pretty impressive to talk about this situation. How easy was that to get their trust, to have them involved?
Not easy at all. It was so difficult. Um, it took a lot of patience and effort, and but I think the caliber of the advocates and authors and intellectuals that speak out on behalf of Julian Assange is a testament to his achievements and the importance of his work. So having legendary whistleblower Daniel Ellsberg, uh, the very charismatic and witty Tariq Ali, uh, John Pilger, who sadly passed away, as well as Ellsberg, not long after we had those interviews with him. But sitting in front of those people and interviewing them was a huge honor and privilege. Getting in touch with them was tricky, and getting their trust, and because I just came into the campaign, a newcomer, unknown, it's not that I'd been in the campaign for years and years. I just suddenly arrived and said, "G'day, I'm Kym from Australia. I'm making a documentary." And of course, they're going to be skeptical. Is this going to be a neutral documentary where I give half the time to Julian's opponents? And am I going to be confused about the issues? What's my side? What's my angle? And when I said to them that I'm 100% in support of Assange and his work, that helped. And also over time, once I'd interviewed sort of 4 or 5 of the main advocates, and I told the other people that I wanted to interview that I had interviewed these people. Well, they're all pretty good friends with each other, and so that gave it enough sort of credentials that I could, I suppose, have enough trust, and also but they had to believe that I was worthy of their time to sit down for an hour and have an interview, that it would be worth it. And I hope that at this point, with the film being hugely successful in the cinemas in Australia, New Zealand, and just about to launch in the UK on the 15th of March, that they would realise that it was worth their time to be part of the documentary.
I mean, it's a powerful piece. It definitely is. And I think, as I say, it cuts through a lot of the noise that was out there. Because I think for me, one of the biggest things, right, it wasn't the information that got leaked, it was the rape. Right. That was the only thing that I was a bit like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, shouldn't we just get this sorted out? Right. But then you find out there was no rape. It was 2 women asking for HIV tests, which that alone speaks volumes, right? That could be manipulated in such a way. It is insane, right? It's a crazy thing, and it kind of also shows the issues that we have with journalism right now. Because a falsehood like that can be made, front page coverage, but the retraction never gets the same coverage as the allegation, the falsehood, which is a huge problem. Because I think, like myself, most people probably don't know that there was no rape. It was a HIV thing. Like,
That smear, just something went on in a very short period of time between Assange, sleeping with 2 women in Sweden, and the women going to the police just to report, just not to report anything, but actually just to get some help, because Assange, the thing you could certainly criticize is that he wasn't willing to get tested, but they went to the police to get help. And then just overnight, it went from a request for assistance to a rape allegation in the mainstream newspapers all over the world. It got leaked from a private, confidential police interview. So there's a lot of dodgy stuff that went on to get that out to the media. And then you see the media turn it into a disgusting smearing campaign. And then you see, even now, 14 years later, it still perpetuates, and we'll see people commenting on our social media that he is a rapist. And for goodness sake, the case was dropped for lack of evidence. Any decent human being with an ounce of integrity should understand the concept of innocent until proven guilty. And people need to have the intelligence to look past this and see that it was a smear campaign, a very clever strategy of the US to completely demolish his character in the public eye.
Well, yeah. And I think a big problem is, right, it's dropped for a lack of evidence. Right, just those words aren't even the truth, right? Because because there was no case to start with, It's not a lack of evidence. There was no case, right? The case is fabricated. And it's
Yeah,
funny that,
only ever an allegation. That's what it was.
yeah,
Um, mm, there was no charge. That's the key thing. He was never charged. It was a case or an allegation, and they couldn't even pursue the allegation for lack of evidence.
mm. And it is kind of ironic, right? That he's being prosecuted and hounded for leaking information. But as you said, that police, that whole thing in Sweden, that got leaked, right? That was illegally leaked. The crazy situation with the security firm in the Ecuadorian embassy leaking classified, you know what I mean, security information, but there's no repercussions on those fronts.
Yeah, and that's not even the worst. I mean, what about the CIA, their plot to assassinate him in London under Mike Pompeo? They were drawing up sketches to literally assassinate a journalist in the middle of London. And then, on top of that, the most serious crimes here are the war crimes. It's the deaths of millions of civilians in Iraq, all the cover up, the unreported deaths, and all of the disgusting crimes that WikiLeaks reported over the course of the work that they've done.
Mm, yeah, no, definitely. It's horrific. I think I believe it was last year when, documents came out that the CIA was trying to assassinate Martin Luther King. So it's just like there is a history of this thing happening, but there's never repercussions for the people in power. But the book will be thrown at people like Assange who are, you know, doing the right thing, as it were, which is, I think, why something like your documentary is so important, right? It's so important to get that information out there because we don't have that in the press anymore. We don't have those, you know, o- op-ed pieces that would just where people would entrench themselves in a story and you'd get this huge piece. Now it's all clickbait and, misinformation, as it were. So knowing what the press is and the difficulty with information, was there any a fear that you wouldn't get to finish this documentary, that hurdles would be put in front of you?
Yeah, that crossed my mind, and I did warn some of all of our editors that we might get our computers hacked. We made sure we always had offline copies and of all the work and things like that. But interestingly, nothing happened at all. There was no opposition, and even when it came to having the film classified in Australia through the government-owned Australian Classifications Board, it just whizzed through that. It got a mild rating, an M rating. It could have got an R rating, which would have scared off the grandmas and grandpas, but it got an
Mm,
M. And everything was so smooth. And I thought about that for a while. And my theory is that his opponents and the US government that want to go after him and scapegoat him, they see documentaries as typical, that a documentary is going to sort of help their cause, basically work for them to be a warning story, to warn off future would-be whistleblowers and their publishers, because documentaries typically are a strict chronological sequence of events from a neutral perspective. And so they probably thought, oh, it's just another documentary that's going to help us in our mission to prevent, the dissemination of information exposing crimes. They didn't expect that we would get hold of never seen before footage of the child victim of the collateral murder incident, Sayed Muchashar.
Mm.
showing his wounds to the camera, or that we would find all sorts of ways to show the tragedy and sadness about the way that Assange has been treated and his situation, and that grown men would cry watching this documentary. That's what they didn't expect, and that we would finish with a very powerful 10-minute chapter that motivates people to take action. Because usually you watch a documentary, it's all very so-so, and at the end you might say, well, oh well, someone else will take care of it. And so, you know, our film on IMDb has a 9 point something rating, which is way above every other Assange doco. Not that it's a competition, but I just think that the film was made to be very powerful, because it gets to the essence of what this is really all about and how it affects all of us, rather than sticking to just facts and figures and from a sort of a cold, neutral perspective.
Well, yeah, no, definitely. I think it really does, cut through to that. I think the references to Chelsea Manning's case are very important, because again, when, the allegation was made that it was putting people's lives in danger, right? You think, oh, well, that's not good. But not having read it, like you can't really talk on those things. But then when you hear that in Manning's the actual trial, they had to admit that, oh, there's no real evidence of that. Right? That's a huge thing, which undermines then what are you actually throwing at Julian? Right? If we've seen that it didn't put people's lives at danger, then what's the issue here? Right?
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
crazy thing.
As Tariq says in the film, um, they simply got hold of documents that existed and made them available to the world public. What could be more honorable than that? And that, that was my mission with the film, was to just cut through all the smoke and mirrors and smear, and just get down to the heart of it, which is that Julian Assange is a highly intelligent, caring, compassionate, gentle intellectual who wanted to end corruption in the world, end wars, and expose crimes and help bring about a more peaceful world. And he should have everybody on his side. I'm going to have to get off to the next interview, Kevin, but great to talk to you. And I'd be very happy to have another interview when I'm back in Australia at some point.
Oh, yeah, that would be tremendous. I really appreciate your time, man. So, yeah, thank you, and good luck with the film. I hope that it has an impact. So, yeah, congratulations, and yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you.